Hey there, movie buffs and TV junkies. Welcome to the Drive-In Chat podcast, the show where we roll out the red carpet for all things film and television. I'm Gabe Whiteman, and today we're diving into the wild world of Venom: The Last Dance. Now, if you thought the sequel was just going to be like another symbiote-fueled ride, think again. This film takes us on a roller coaster journey filled with humor, action, and a villain that looks like he stepped straight out of your nightmare. Which, if you don't know who that is, Null. But does it deliver more than just flashy visuals? Stay tuned, because I'll be revealing my score and why I think this film deserves more credit than what it's actually getting. But before we get into the nitty gritty, I want to share my thoughts on recent news that has actually been revealed recently. So first off, I want to start this off with the reveal of the logo for Marvel Television's Wonder Man, which, I don't know. I saw the logo. I don't think it was actually that bad, per se. However, it did spark a lot of controversy because basically they revealed the logo and then they were like, oh, hey, and then this whole argument started to be like, yeah, what's up with Marvel and producing like basic ass logos, you know? And like don't get me wrong, it is pretty basic. It's almost like, hey, let's put this in Roman fancy font and turn it yellow and have that be that. That's kind of basic. That is really basic. They did compare it to Thunderbolts and how that's basic, but I don't think Thunderbolts logo is basic because it looks like it actually has some texture to it. And it actually, I don't know, maybe matches the movie style, but I don't know. That's just me. The next piece of news is that we also got a first look at the logo of the new Marvel animation series, Eyes of Wakanda. And first off, actually, the logo actually looks really good. It's very Wakandan themed and very Wakanda vibe. It's actually a pretty good logo. But they also actually revealed the synopsis. So the official synopsis for Marvel Animation's Eyes of Wakanda is described as a 4-part animated anthology series that follows warriors throughout Wakandan history who were tasked to travel the world retrieving dangerous vibranium artifacts. Which, honestly, face value, it actually looks not bad. It doesn't sound that bad. And we did actually get a look at the series as well, but I'll get into that later. But as far as like the actual show, it actually doesn't sound bad. And I've actually heard, I can't actually remember if this is actually in the MCU or not. I don't think it is. I think it's this one, What If, and Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man that are not going to be in the MCU. So it's just going to be some Elseworlds type stuff. But the next piece of news that I had planned is a big one, which take this with a grain of salt. But it has been said by a source that I might or might not trust that a Sinister Six movie is moving forward in development. The team will consist of Kraven, Morbius, Vulture, Madam Web, and Venom. And it's currently unclear if a Spider-Man will show up during the film, but the main villain will be Null. So this does come from like an account on Twitter that I really don't know if I trust already. So take this with a grain of salt because nobody else has been talking about it. But honestly, even if this is fake, I could see Sony doing this. It's very Sony-like to actually be like, hey, we're just gonna put all of our villains together and basically fight off against like the world's most powerful villain ever to ever exist in Marvel. That's very Sony. So in my eyes, I don't think this is a good idea because I don't know. We haven't seen Kraven. Kraven the Hunter comes out in December, which I will go see and review in December. Morbius was Vulture is not a bad villain, honestly. He was in Spider-Man Homecoming, so he wasn't a bad villain. Madam Web, I still haven't seen, but I've heard that it's just terrible. And then Venom finished off its movie this week, or last week, so I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it. I really do. But have all of them go up against Null, that's a terrible idea. Don't ever do that. If Null's going to be a villain, do Spider-Man. Spider-Man needs to be the villain. But the other news that actually came up just literally maybe a couple hours ago is that Marvel Studios actually posted and is starting to publicize a new teaser of all of the content that's coming out recently. So here's the full list and the full slate as of right now, according to Disney, between now and next year. So, What If Season 3 is supposedly releasing on December 22nd, which I don't know if I like how they're doing it because they did the same thing with What If Season 2. Actually, now to think about it, I think they did the same thing with What If Season 1 as well. What the hell, Marvel? What are you doing with the show? Anyways, What If Season 3 is coming out December 22nd of 2024. So it is going to come out 2 days before Christmas, which is again weird, but whatever. And I have also heard that this is the last season of What If. So this is it. Which I'm kind of glad. I hate the series. It had so much more potential than it actually has. I feel like Marvel just ran this series down into the gutter. They really did. So I'm kind of glad the series is dead. And I'm also glad that it's not connected to the MCU. But next up is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is premiering January 25th, 2025. That show, so you can go watch the teaser. I might or might not link it in the description below. But Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man actually doesn't sound that bad. It doesn't look bad. The animation is very weird. I will admit, it does look very weird. They went with a different animation style, and I don't know if I like it. But I've heard some plot things about it. I've heard Venom is going to make their way into it. And off topic, but I've heard a Spider-Man 98 show is kind of in rumors with Marvel, so that might happen. So I don't know. I feel like the Spider-Man part of Marvel might actually be kind of interesting. But we'll see. We'll see what they do different. Daredevil Born Again is releasing March 4th of 2025. That show looks undeniably good. I've seen so many trailers and so many clips from that show. This looks like an amazing show. This looks like it's about to be like at least 10 times better than the Netflix one. I'm dead serious. I don't know if I like Charlie Cox's character, Matt Murdock, teaming up with Kingpin per se, but apparently it's because of a villain called Muse. So maybe I'm fine with it. I don't know. I don't know if I'm cool with it. Next up is Ironheart, which is premiering June 24th, 2025. That one shouldn't be. Oh, okay, honestly, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm not really looking forward to the series. It looks kind of eh. It's been done actually for a while now, because it was supposed to premiere after Wakanda Forever, which that was released in 2022. So why they've been sitting on this series for over more than a year, I have no idea. Don't ask me. But it looks interesting. It looks meh. However, I am excited to see what's his name as I think the villain, which is I think called the Hood in the show. He's played by, I can't remember his name. It's like Tony Ramos or something like that. I want to say his last name is Ramos or something like that. He is the same guy that was in Transformers: Rise of the Beast, and he's actually premiering in a lot more things. So I'm kind of excited to see him. The next one is Eyes of Wakanda, which I mentioned earlier. That's premiering August 6th of 2025. That one should be interesting as well. I don't know how well they'll do with it. The animation looks like the same as What If, so I don't know. It might be interesting. Marvel Zombies is actually premiering October 25th of 2025. That might be interesting. Oh, actually, hold on. Sorry, my bad. It's premiering October 2025. So there's no set date, but it is premiering in October 2025. So, I don't know. It might be interesting. I don't know if I really like the idea, because this is all based off of the zombie episode from What If Season 1. But I don't know. It could be interesting. I don't think it's going to be interesting because Marvel is just making money. They just want to make money off the show, to be honest. So, I don't know. And then the last series that they announced is Wonder Man, which is premiering in December of 2025. That one, I have no idea how I feel. That one, I have like no hype for either, just because it, like the teaser that they did show, it seems like it's some like actor or like stuntman or something like that. But Ben Kingsley is supposed to also show up in the series, so I have no idea how this is going to be. Seriously, I have no idea. I feel like they should, I don't know, maybe do something better with it. because like I've never heard of this superhero before, so I feel like they could have probably made a different series, but I don't know. That's just me. But that was all the news I saw. A lot of Marvel stuff is coming up, and Venom: The Last Dance just came out, so I guess let's just move on to the review. Now, before we break down Venom: The Last Dance, let's pick everybody up to speed. So this film picks up right after the events of Let There Be Carnage and No Way Home, which plunges us back into the chaotic life of Eddie Brock, played by Tom Hardy. Eddie finds himself entangled with a new threat, which is Null the Symbiote God, which is played by Andy Serkis. And in the movie, I won't reveal too much, but in the movie, Venom and Eddie are on the run because they contain this thing called a codex, which I won't explain what it is. You're going to have to watch the movie. But the Null needs the codex in order to be free from his prison because he's trapped on some planet that the symbiotes made. And so Null sends these monsters to go get the codex from Eddie, so that's why they're on the run. And that's basically the entire movie. Directed by Kelly Marcel, with Hardy returning alongside some new faces such as Juno Temple, Rufus Ifans, Chiwetel Ejiofor, I hope I pronounced that right, and Stephen Graham. The movie sets up an epic showdown that introduces more symbiotes than ever. So buckle up because this ride is filled with thrilling visuals and unexpected twists. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the review. So let's start with the VFX. So the VFX of the movie, I actually praise. I feel like this is the best looking Sony Marvel movie of the entire franchise. Not just the Venom movies, but actually all of the Sony Marvel movies. This is probably the best looking one. That might be just me saying a lot, but I feel like this does look really good. Null, let's just actually get the elephant out of the way. Null looks amazing and sounds amazing. Like, seriously, he isn't very prominent in the film. He does play a decent role, and technically he is the villain. So he does actually, I think he actually plays a pretty, not a big part, but definitely a decent part. He plays a decent part in the movie. And so I do think Null looks very badass. Like, every time they introduced him, they always showed like the symbiote planet that he's stuck on and everything. And he looks very sinister. We do see a shot of his face in the end of the movie, which I will talk about later, but he does look very, very evil, like demonic evil. It looks insanely good. That is like during one scene of the movie, which I won't like totally spoil the movie, but so this will be like a review that's like half, like, I guess you could say light spoilers. It will be light spoilers. So Null, there's a scene where a certain character has trauma, and so they see into the future, or like they say that, oh hey, I've seen the future, and they see Null taking over the planet and being free. And so we do see a quick shot of Null like in full body, and he has the Null logo and everything. Like, he looks insanely sinister. He looks insanely badass. I loved like every shot of him. I feel like I'm like really hyping over this and maybe praising too much of it, but I really think he looks just badass, man. Next, the VFX on the Xenophage. So I feel like out of all of the like creatures and all the stuff that they showed, the VFX on the Xenophage looked really, really good. Seriously, there's a couple of shots, so again, light spoilers, but one of the things that the Xenophage can do is that when they quote-unquote eat anything, it actually doesn't like have a digestive system or something like that. So literally all of like the blood, skin, whatever, just comes out at the back of his head, which is kind of a weird thought. Like, whoever came up with the thought of that actually had a good idea. But the fact that it was even allowed in a PG-13 movie, because they showed a lot of gore when it came to those scenes. So that was kind of weird that they didn't make it R-rated because of that. But hey, whatever. Anyways, so out of all the monsters and everything, the VFX on the Xenophages, which are the monsters that Null sends after Eddie and Venom, they actually look really, really good. Like, I recently just saw that this movie had a $120 million budget, and the VFX looks that good. Like, I'm not saying it's like on the level of like James Cameron's like Avatar: Way of Water, but for a Sony Marvel movie, that it looks really good. It looks really, really good. There was a moment where, so I mean, it's not really a spoiler because it's shown in the trailers, but the xenophage attacks Venom on the plane, like literally on the outside of a plane. And again, light spoilers, but basically what ends up happening is the xenophage gets chewed up, or actually no, just gets basically destroyed because it gets sucked up into the jet turbine, or the airplane turbine, and so then it basically goes everywhere, and pieces of the xenophage start falling onto the sky or to the ground. But what's funny is that it puts itself back together. So like it's basically, I don't know, it's very tough to kill it, and so the VFX on like when it puts itself back together is actually really good. It looks very like almost like very symbiotic, like the way with like Venom has like a string like look to it. The same thing can say about the xenophages when they put itself back together. It was actually very interesting, and I don't know, I really like the look of them, and they're actually fucking huge, man. They're gigantic. So I really like the VFX on that. A notable mention, I'm not gonna praise it. This is gonna be just a short blurb, but yes, there is a symbiote frog and a symbiote fish. That was actually pretty cool to see. It was fun. Like, it was fun to see. But no, it was actually not bad to like actually look at. The symbiote fish was cool, but that was like only for like 2 seconds. It was like literally the symbiote goes on the fish, the fish jumps out of the water, and then the symbiote literally goes straight from the fish to a frog. But what's funny is that we saw more of the fish than the frog. The frog like just like jumps a couple times and then goes into the water and goes on to Eddie. Like, it was weird. But seeing the symbiote frog and the fish was actually pretty cool though. And the VFX on it didn't actually make it look weird. Like, it didn't look weird. It looked like literally a symbiote was on a fish. So that was pretty cool. And then another VFX thing I want to mention is Patrick Mulligan. So, I mean, this isn't really a spoiler because, again, it was shown in the trailer. But yes, he is alive. I'm not going to tell you how he survived or why he's alive or why he's in the movie, but all I'll say is that he is alive. So, I'm going to break everybody's hearts right now. The symbiote that gets attached to Mulligan is not Toxin. I hate to break it to you, it is not Toxin. Surprisingly, they actually don't reveal the name of the symbiote, but it's not Toxin at all, which is kind of weird because in the comics, Patrick Mulligan does get a symbiote in the comics, and it's called Toxin. So I don't know why his symbiote wasn't Toxin, but whatever. Either way, they play it into the story. So anyways, so he does end up having a symbiote. And so the symbiote actually looks very interesting. He like has like a floating like appearance to it. And so, he has like a floating like appearance to it. And so he kind of like floats around like almost like he has like zero gravity or something like that. And so he kind of just like uses like the walls and stuff to like move around. It was actually very like interesting on like how he moves. And also, I hate to break it to you, but we don't see the symbiote very much. We really don't. We barely see it. So, I thought the symbiote wasn't actually that bad. The VFX was not bad. The voice of that symbiote sounds dangerously similar to Venom. Like, they didn't change like the VFX. They didn't change like anything with it. It was almost like Venom. If you close your eyes, it sounded like Venom was talking. So that kind of sucked. But other than that, his symbiote wasn't bad, and it looked very good. And the last thing I kind of want to mention with VFX is the post-credit scene. So yes, there is 2 post-credit scenes for the movie. The first post-credit scene has a lot of importance to the future of Sony's Marvel movies. So, first post-credit scene, I don't want to like fully, I don't know, okay, it's up to you. You can listen to it if you want, but the first post-credit scene has Null, the symbiote god, and basically, it kind of shows like what Sony's plans are with him. I won't reveal too much, but basically it shows him on the planet, and I can't tell if he's free or not. That's the thing that's troubling, is that it looks like he might be free, but he might not. I don't know. But he says like the most badass line ever. He literally says word for word, "Your champion has fallen. The king in black is awake. Your world will burn and you will watch." Like that, man. And then that's when he shows his face. And that was such a badass. That was such a badass line. I love that post-credit scene. I could watch that post-credit scene for end on end, and I could, that just gave me goosebumps. I love that post-credit scene. However, it does seem like Sony doesn't know what to do with the character. So it has been revealed that, like, hey, Noel will be not just be in this one film, like he'll be in more films, and like they want him to be like this the Thanos of the Sony Marvel universe, which, like, I respect. He's a very big villain and I could see it. However, it sounds like the way that they've been doing press about it and the way that they did it in the movie, I seriously don't think they know what they're going to do with the character. I feel like they're just kind of figuring this stuff out as they go, which is kind of stupid, but whatever. I guess you do you. But that first post-credit scene was really good. And again, that's when they showed, this is the only time that they show Noel's face, which I don't like. I wish that they showed Noel's face a lot, because throughout the entire movie, whenever it did show Noel, it was only like from the side or like from the back. Like they never showed his face. So I don't really like that, but whatever. It is what it is. But anyways, the point is that the VFX of the entire movie was really good, especially Noel. I can't get enough of Noel. If I wanted to, I would probably get a poster of Noel the symbiote god and put it up, but I feel like that might be too nerdy. So anyway, moving on. So let's move on to tone. So the tone of the movie I will say that's actually one thing I actually praise it for. The tone of the movie definitely dialed back compared to Venom, The Let There Be Carnage. So first off, we gotta mention the Venom horse scene. That was funny. I actually laughed at that movie because that scene because they had I can't even remember the song. It's a song from Queen. I want to say it's Another One Bites the Dust, I think, by Queen. I can't remember the song though, but they play a Queen song. And while symbiote attaches to the horse and they ride it and everything, it sucks because they only showed the horse for like maybe a minute. The symbiote horse and everything, like they only showed it for a minute and that was it. But like other than that, it wasn't bad. It was actually kind of funny. But like I said earlier, they dialed back the funny. So if you didn't, that's like the one thing I hate about the franchise, or about the Sony, or about the Venom franchise within itself, was that people keep saying that, oh hey, no, it's supposed to be funny, blah 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 blah. BS. No, it has not. No, the franchise has never been funny. The person that made this trilogy into a funny, moronic trilogy was Andy Serkis. He directed Venom Let There Be Carnage, and that was a trash movie. And that's when it got really, really goofy. And then they carried it into this film, which they did dial back on, but it was just so, like, but the first one wasn't even funny. It was a serious Venom movie. That's how Venom should be. But anyways, I'm getting too heated over this. But basically, what I'm trying to get at is they did dial back like the humor and the funniness and like the cheesiness from the second one. So it isn't as bad, which I really like. I don't really like the humor, but at the same time, I will say this: the humor was actually good in this movie. Like the parts that were supposed to be funny, I actually laughed at for once. So that it was good. There was the first fight scene, which again I won't really reveal too much, but the first fight scene is that scene that we see in the trailer with Eddie / Venom with a bunch of with a gang and stuff in like that dark warehouse. So we do see a fight scene does happen there, and it does have good action, but it had a lot of cheesy dialogue. And I don't like that. I hate cheesy dialogue, and apparently that's like the motto for the Venom franchise, but whatever. But it actually wasn't that bad. Plus, the song actually complemented the fight scene. I forgot what song it was. It was like some like song that was written specifically for this movie, but it wasn't bad. So overall, the tone was actually a major improvement. Because on top of that, it wasn't like the tones weren't conflicting in the movie. Like in Venom Let There Be Carnage, the tones were very conflicting because it felt like it was supposed to be funny but also serious at the same time. With The Last Dance, I felt like it knew where it wanted to be. It knew what tone it wanted to do, and so it did have emotional parts. It did have funny parts, but at the end, it actually wasn't bad. It was a very well balanced tone. Moving on to acting. Acting wasn't bad. I would say, like, I only have one thing to say about acting. The acting overall wasn't bad. Dr. Payne is an interesting... So Dr. Payne is actually played by Juno Temple. She was an interesting character because they added, like, a lot of trauma to her character, which I honestly didn't mind. But at the same time, I don't know. I felt like maybe they could have done something different with her character. I felt like they just added trauma to her character, just to add trauma. But I didn't mind it. I felt like she played a good role. What I didn't like... Actually, you know what? I'll save it for later. I did not like, whatever his name was. It was like... I don't know. It was like General, like, Starling, or... It was like Rex Starling or something like that. It was the character played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. I'm hopefully pronouncing that right. I did not like his character at all. But that's a separate topic. But overall, the acting wasn't bad. Eddie's or Tom Hardy's acting wasn't bad. I feel like he played a good part. The acting from the lizard guy, Rufus Ifan or something like that. Rufus Ifans. His acting wasn't bad. No, I didn't really feel like any character had like bad acting at all. So, which was actually a really good improvement. But now let's move on to direction. So with direction, I thought the direction of the movie was pretty good. I felt that it was cool that they connected this movie to the first one. So I won't tell you how it's connected, but the first Venom movie and The Last Dance are connected through a very major part of the plot. I won't tell you what part of the plot, but it's very connected. So I like how they connected it, and kind of, because it makes the movie feel like, you know, all like wrapped in a bow. So it felt like it's kind of all paths like led to this movie, which was actually pretty cool. And then the third act was really good. There was xenophages everywhere. I won't spoil too much, but there are a ton of symbiotes everywhere. So the third act was really good. And there is a special symbiote that they don't give a name to, but it's very obvious on who the symbiote is. And so that symbiote comes in at the last second, which I kind of sucks that it only lasts for a second, but it's cool that they brought in some, I guess you could say, famous symbiotes. So I thought the direction was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was good for the whole movie. I feel like there was like some stuff that they could have probably maybe clipped out, but overall I thought the direction was good. Now moving on to setting. Setting was actually not bad. There's only like two things that I liked from the setting. So first off, it's not really spoiling too much, but Area 51 is actually a part of this plot, which, I mean, it's aliens. Symbiotes are aliens, so it's actually not surprising that Area 51 is part of the plot, to be honest with you. But other than that, the setting was good. In the movie, they actually showed the meteor that carried the symbiotes, because that's like the big part, or like the major story part of the whole symbiote storyline, is that symbiotes came to Earth from a meteor. So they actually showed it in the movie, quickly, but they showed it, and I thought it was very good. I thought it was actually really cool that they showed it. And then I have to mention the water scenes. So in the trailer, you can see that Venom is in like some like river or something. So that was when we saw the symbiote fish and the symbiote frog. that scene was actually really good. My worry was that because since Venom is VFX, I was kind of worried how it was going to be with like water and everything. No, seriously, I'm being dead serious when I say this. It looked really good. Mixing VFX and like water and everything, it looked really good. I was like honestly wondering how like they would make like water and the symbiote like react, because it's literally digital mixing with physical, and they pulled it off. They did a really good job with it. I didn't have any problems with it. So honestly, I know it sounds like I'm like praising this movie, but this movie was like really good. But the one there, I do have a problem with it though. So this is the plot holes, or like, I guess I call them like hms, you know? I call them hms because like technically it's the parts that you just kind of like and hawing about. So first off, we gotta mention Mulligan. They do explain how he's alive, but it's a very just bullshit way to put him in the movie. And I'm gonna break all of your hearts. He did not have a serious role in the movie. He really didn't. He just kind of, he didn't really do anything in the movie, to be honest. He was just there. Whenever they showed him, all he did was just talk, and then something happens at the end, which I won't reveal, and then that's it. That's all we see, which like really sucks, but it's whatever. I don't know why they included him in the movie, but hey, it's a quick paycheck for him. Next is Strickland. See, I knew I wrote his name down somewhere. Strickland. So Strickland was the general, the character that was played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Hopefully, again, I'm saying that right. So yeah, so his name was Strickland, and I didn't like him because he was very one-dimensional. I'm being dead serious when I say that. He was a very one-dimensional character. He was like your general, your military general that was like almost had like no emotion and only business. He was like that type of general, which we've seen in like almost every single movie that involves the military. So he was very just a basic character. So honestly, I was very disappointed with, like, his performance was good, but the character sucked ass, man. I did not like the character. Maybe if I watch it again, maybe I'll praise the character more, but I did not like the character. I was kind of like, whenever it showed him, I was like, okay, let's move on. I don't want to see his character. The next thing that I really do not like from this movie is how they do the story. So the story itself is actually not bad. It's a plot and a B plot, where basically something happens with these characters, something happens with other characters, and then it merges into one story and converges into a giant story, which, I don't know. Usually that type of structure is made for TV shows, but somehow they made it work. But the huge problem that I have with it is that they do exposition dumps, which is like the number one rule in story writing is you never do exposition dumps. Never do exposition dumps. Because like it's basically because you're telling story rather than showing it. So yeah, if you're ever becoming a writer or something, never do exposition dumps. It's stupid. But what happens is basically the movie opens with Null, like literally right off the bat, it's Null on his planet. That's the first thing that happens, that shows up. But what ends up happening is Null explains his story, but it literally explains the entire movie within the first 10 seconds. It was like a giant exposition dump. It's like, oh man, I'm trapped on this planet, and I need the Codex. The Codex is what gets me free. And then he calls like the Xenophages, like, Xenophages, I will grant you your freedom if you give me the Codex. And then that was it. And then it moved on to the movie. It was like, really? That was the entire movie explained in 10 seconds. It was so dumb. Like, really? Why did you... I felt like there was a better way. And then on top of that, there was a scene where Eddie is walking through the desert for a good reason. I won't explain why, but he's walking through the desert, And yeah, and then another exposition dump happens. It was like, so yeah, and so because Eddie, because that scene, after that scene, before that scene was the xenophage attack thing. And so that's when they encounter it for the first time. And so Eddie's like, oh hey, what's the thing that we just fought? And yeah, and then he's like, and so that's when Venom's like gives this exposition dump for like the second time and explains the codex and everything. And it's like, I hate the exposition dumps. Like, I know it has to happen. You need to like I know you need to like say story and stuff, but show it, not tell it. It was very stupid. I was kind of irritated about that. Another thing I can already tell you right off the bat, the whole Vegas sequence, because in the trailer we see Venom and Eddie in a casino. Apparently Mrs. Chen is in the casino as well. That whole thing did not need to happen at all. Seriously, all that happens is, for some reason, he goes to Vegas, which don't even explain why he goes to Vegas. Such a random location. But he goes to Vegas, he goes to the casino, wastes all our money, meets Mrs. Chen, dances with her for some reason to an ABBA song, which is random as hell, and then that was it. That was the whole Vegas scene. It was so stupid. Like, I felt like they were like, hey, this is a Venom, it's called Venom the Last Dance. How about we include a dancing feature? It's like, really? It was so stupid. I hated every minute of it, because like they did not need to include a dancing scene. It was so stupid. And what's even stupider is that, I won't spoil too much, but basically Venom, whenever Venom goes and transforms into like full Venom, it alerts the xenophage. I won't explain why or how, but it does. And so every time he does that, the xenophage gets alert, and that's when attacks happen. And so the whole point of the movie is that Venom's like, hey, I won't be able to go into full Venom mode because then the xenophage will attack us. Yet he goes into full Venom mode to dance with Mrs. Chen. Like, what? That makes no sense at all. I think he gives like an explanation for it in the movie, but it made no sense at all. It was so stupid. And then something at the end happens to Mulligan. I won't explain why or what happens, but that sucked as well. And then I think the biggest thing, another big thing that I really didn't like, is that it sucked that they didn't show Noel's face until the post-credit scene. Like, really? That kind of sucked. Like, we kept seeing Noel like across the movie, but in like short like clips, and they weren't really like, I don't know, never showed his face, never showed his full body except for like a very like a millisecond montage, but that was it. It was very disappointing. For him being the villain, they should have shown it. They should have just ripped the band-aid off and showed his face, but whatever. But honestly, that was my full review. I think it wasn't that bad. So, what's my final verdict? I'm giving Venom the Last Dance a 7.5 out of 10. My original score was an 8 out of 10, which was actually the same score that I gave the first Venom movie, but then I kind of thought about it. I kind of thought what I didn't like about the movie. I thought about what I did like of the movie, and I just settled for a 7.5. I think I like it more than most, but I don't care. I don't care if people will attack me. I like this movie. It's better than I expected, with a somewhat well-crafted story, and say what you want, but Noel was a solid villain. Even though he wasn't shown much, he was a very solid villain. And yeah, I'll admit, there are some cheesy moments. Strickland might as well just been a cardboard cutout, honestly, and I wish Noel was shown more, but overall, it's a very fun ride that fans of the franchise will actually appreciate, I think. I think, honestly, if you like the first two, you'll like this one. If you did not like the second one, but you like the first one, I feel like you'll have a fun time with the third one. And then, if you didn't like the first one or the second one, you won't like the third one at all. But, because my view is that I think the first one is golden. the best Sony Marvel movie out of all of them that they made. And Venom Let There Be Carnage was a complete garbage can. That was a terrible movie. I remember when I saw that movie in theaters, I was like, nah, that wasn't it. I walked out of the theater and I thought like, wow, that was like the first time I thought like, wow, I just wasted $15 on a movie ticket to see that movie. Like that was a terrible movie. But Venom The Last Dance compared to Let There Be Carnage and Venom is actually pretty good. Venom The Last Dance is definitely better than Let There Be Carnage, but I don't know if I would say it's better or as good as Venom. I'm the jury's still out. I would have to watch it for a second time, but it is good. 7.5 out of 10 is my official score. So, to wrap it up, the film does have its flaws, but it does deliver on an entertainment, visual spectacle, and an engaging storyline. Well, somewhat of an engaging storyline. Even though this is the end of the symbiote trilogy, that post-credit scene teases more chaos to come, ultimately making Noel be the Thanos of the Sony Marvel universe, which will be very interesting on how Sony will deal with it. Before I let you go, I want to hear your thoughts. How about a favorite scene poll? I'll post a poll on our social media, which will be probably Twitter. I usually post my main social media that I use is Twitter, so that's probably what I'll use. So I'll post a poll on Twitter, which is at Drive In Chat Pod. That is Drive In Chat Pod, asking you to vote for your favorite scene from the Venom The Last Dance. So whoever you've seen, I'll probably pick like the top 4 scenes, and you guys vote on which is your best. We'll reveal the results in our next episode and discuss what made those moments resonate with you. But if you enjoyed the show, make sure to leave a review, follow us for the latest updates, and join us next week for some cinematic fun. Until then, keep the popcorn poppin' and the reels rollin'.